I am currently in a walk-in clinic in Brooklyn, right by my apartment, where they're giving free COVID-19 antibody tests. I just got a text alert that my results are in. All right, so what's the fix for opening society back up? That's what really everyone is looking for right now. And I wish I had the definitive answer, but I have one sort of maybe possibility on something that could help us get back to work and playing outside and just being normal people a little faster, and it's called antibody testing. You've probably heard about antibody testing, but if you haven't, basically what it is it's a blood test that tells you whether you have antibodies for COVID-19 in your system, and that in turn is supposed to tell you whether you've already had the virus, which in theory should tell you whether you might be immune to the virus. Now that's huge caveat here is that the science is unclear as to whether that's actually the case. So before I go through all the trouble of getting this test, I want to talk to an expert. So let me dial up Dr. Jen Ashton. She is the Chief Medical Analyst for Good Morning America and for ABC News. So let's dial her up, see what she has to say about this whole thing. So Dr. Jen, thanks so much for agreeing to talk to me. I have like a million questions for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Great. So first of all, just what is an antibody test?
Well, usually we do those in medicine when we're looking for evidence of past infection. So it's a simple blood test. In general, they can, for other types of infections, tell us who's susceptible, who's infected, and who's recovered. With COVID-19, not that simple.
Okay, so I feel like I need to take us back to high school biology for a second. What exactly is an antibody?
An antibody, think of it like it's a Y-shaped protein, and it binds and attaches to proteins on the surface of a virus that is called the antigen. And when they recognize each other, they tell our immune system, oh, I've seen this before. I better get into action, better start fighting. It's just part of our body's immune system.
I'm about to get an antibody test just because I'm curious, but who should really be getting these tests?
Here's the thing, and this is what I really encourage people to keep in mind at this stage. You shouldn't do a test in medicine unless you know what you're going to do with the results of that test. And regardless of what your results show us, Chris, you're going to do the same exact thing. Or you should at least, right? Which is you should still keep your distance from people. You should still wash your hands a whole heck of a lot. You should still wear a mask when you go outside.
So I am here in the walk-in clinic. Hey. Oh, is that it?
That's it, you're done.
Wow.
I know, right?
Okay, so I went on Thursday. It is now Monday. I guess let's go check it out. I'm going to click the link now, and we're gonna see if I have antibodies, which would indicate that I have had coronavirus and recovered. Let's have a look. Final result is negative. Aww. All right, so the results are not exactly what I was hoping for. I tested negative for antibodies, which means that I did not have COVID-19 when I thought I had it. Let's call Dr. Jen one more time and just give her an update and see what advice she has for me. Okay, so Dr. Jen, I got my test, they drew my blood, waited a couple days, I just got the text message with the result, and it says that I am negative. So what does that mean in layman's terms?
You're probably, along with 95% of the US population, have not been exposed or infected to this strain of coronavirus yet. So if you want to just boil it down, you are still susceptible.
What kind of role does antibody testing play in the kind of overall picture of bending the curve and the idea of trying to get back to work?
Well, I think antibody testing and swab testing or testing to diagnose active infection, because they're two different types of tests, are really important. They're really important in tracking this virus. They're really important to getting people safely back to work. So I think I hope that there will be a time where we know enough science about this strain of virus where we can say, here's how we're going to use the results. The tests are accurate, and we know how long these antibodies last, and we know they're specific, and they're not picking up another strain of coronavirus. I hope we get to that point. Then I think it will be a useful test. We recommend staggered or sequential testing because all viruses have latency periods. People can be exposed. You could test negative in my office and go out and get exposed and come back in 3 or 6 or 9 months and test positive, right? So how often are these tests going to be repeated? No one is talking about that, okay? So that, in my opinion, is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. For all of the population that tests negative, they're going to need to be retested if they're going to go back to work. You're going to have to retest people, and you're going to have to retest people a lot.
So is antibody testing the fix for being able to reopen society? Yes and no. It's not really the fix for you individually. So if you were thinking, I'm gonna run out and get an antibody test, and if it says that I'm positive for antibodies, I'm gonna rip off my mask and go running through the streets, whistling and singing and closing the 6-foot gap between people, that's not gonna happen. But yes, antibody testing is part of the fix for a nationwide response to this virus. So should you go out and get an antibody test? Honestly, Dr. Jen is probably right. She's definitely right. No. An antibody test is not gonna tell you anything. You don't really need to seek it out. Save your time. Don't risk going into a clinic if you don't have to, because basically there's no takeaway from getting an antibody test. So that's what's the fix for this week. If you guys wanna hear about a specific topic, please let us know in the comments or DM us. We're always trying to make the show better. I'm Chris Casey. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Stay safe.